So we're going to start our next lesson on performing a read. Um, this should get into some of the interesting fun stuff. The first thing we need to do, of course, is create a class, or if you're a COBOL programmer, a program. I'm going to go ahead and do a left click on the source because this is where we want the new program to be. I'm going to come up here where it says create a new visual class, and I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to put my cursor on swing and come over and click on JFrame. And I will go ahead and call this LSN3, and I will go ahead and say finish. And as we can see, this has opened up a new class for me with the main, which is to tell it that this is an executable module, and then the control panel. I'm going to come down where next to source where it says design, and I'm going to go ahead and left click on design. And this will open up my control panel that I defined, and here's the control panel, and I'm going to go ahead and expand that to make it a little bit bigger. The next thing I want to do is over here under layouts, I'm going to say absolute layout, layout I prefer, but you should try using all the others and find how to use them all in various things, experiment a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come under here under components, and I'm going to select JLabel, and I'm going to put the JLabel at the top. And of course, I don't want it to be that small, so I will just bounce it up a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. Of course, as you can see, it's not centered. So if I come back over here and under it says leading, I'm going to go ahead and say centered, which will move it to the center. And then under text, I want to call this examples. And when I click on over here, it shows me example, makes it a very small size, which I'm going to come back over to font, and I'm going to create a bigger font. Let me see what I'll select. I will select this one. I'll go bold, and I'll usually bounce it up to like at least 26, make it a little bit bigger. And of course the box is too small, so I'll just drag the box to be a little bit bigger. If I go ahead and do a right click on it, I can go ahead and do a test preview of the screen, and there's my screen. As you can see, it says example. It's a little off-centered, but you can just left click on, move it wherever you want it to move after it's been there. The next thing I want to do is I want to come over here, and I think I'm going to put a button on the page. So I'm going to come over here and say, let's put a button here. And I don't want the button called new button. I'm just going to go ahead and call this COBOL. And of course, come over here and it says COBOL. I'm going to leave it the size, but you can expand it if you want. Instead of going and clicking on the button again, I'm going to go ahead and right click on it and then copy the button with a with a right click, and I will paste it, and I will line it up here, or maybe I'll move it a little more. And it says COBOL, which I don't want it to, of course, say COBOL again, so I'm going to come over and say Java. So now I've got two buttons, and if I went back to the source, the two buttons would be at the bottom where it put them. Here they are, button 1 COBOL, button 2 Java. Of course, if I decided to perform this, I come over here and let's just go do a perform on it, run Java application, and there it is. This is what I just designed. Of course, the buttons don't do anything. I can click on them, nothing happens. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to come back to the design center. And what I want to do is I need to be able to do a function so when I click on them that I get action done. So we're going to come down to add an event handler, action perform. And it's going to bring you back to the button. And the button's going to show that it added an action perform, which is there's an action listener been added, an action perform, and it will do an event. But right now I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to go back to the design center, and I'm going to do the same thing for the Java. I'm going to right click, I'm going to left click, put my cursor on action perform, and then I'll left click, and of course it's also come down and it's added the action listener. Now what I want to do is I want to set up a new program for doing a read. You can do this very simply as you come over to here and you can do a left click, new class. And then you would name it whatever you want. And I'll just create a read. I'm not going to particularly keep this one, but I'm going to say read, and it would just give me class read. Well, I've already have this so that we can go over, and I've added other data for the read that we can talk about, and I'll get rid of that because I don't want to keep that in my library. So here's my class read. I called it read database, DB. And this is like another program call. And I'm setting up that if there's the read, the connection, the statement will be null. Some of this, you take a little while. You have to do some research to, if you're interested in various scenarios on this. But right here, it tells me that I'm going to be using a SQL Lite database. This is mandatory since you're using SQL. It will be in all your programs when you do a read. The next one tells me that my drive manager is my SQL Lite is located on my C drive, and you have to put / between these or it won't work. So if I went into my C drive, and I'll bring this down a little bit, and I said Java, here's my Java, and then I said lessons. So I go to lessons, we will find a lesson read SQL Lite, as you see right there. So this points to the location. These are automatic setup for all of them, exactly the same, auto commit, the statement. And then right here, you get into the read. This is my name of my database that we did in SQL Lite in Firefox, LSN read. And I am going to read this database. And right below here, you'll see that I have a loop read. This is just telling it to go ahead and loop through the whole database, reading COBOL name, and then if it reads COBOL name, it has a string variable, which is like a picture X in COBOL, a working storage kind of a thing where you store the value from the database in. So it's going to read this, whatever in this particular record will be stored in COBOL, whatever in the Java name will be stored in Java, and whatever in example will be stored in example. And then we're going to do a system print, which will show up where my cursor is down in the cursor console. And this is like a display also for people out there doing COBOL. And I'm going to display the word REC space, and then by putting a plus sign, I'm going to concatenate the variable COBOL. So the next thing, whatever in COBOL will be displayed. Then I'm going to put a plus sign, which you have to concatenate, and I'm going to put 2 spaces, and then another plus sign to concatenate Java, which are the variables, and it's going to display whatever in Java. And then it's going to concatenate the spaces, concatenate the example, and then display whatever in example. So if I've done this correctly, this will read my database, SQL database that we created online, and it will just show me what's in the database. So I'm going to come over here to LSN3, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go down to run as a Java application. So I'm going to left click on this, and it should run. So now here we go. This is where it is, and I click, but nothing's happening. The reason nothing's happening is to get this to work. Okay, to get this to work, I'm going to have to, from our main program, I've got to call or perform or RBD Java. So to do that, over here under action perform, when I do a click, I want to say read db new equals, and this is a variable that you can call whatever you want, equal new read db. And I'm going to put it in both places, under the Java and under COBOL and under Java. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do my right click on LSN3, and I'm going to say run, and I'm going to say as application, and it says, once again, it says as Java and COBOL, or COBOL and Java. And I'm going to go ahead and left click on the COBOL, and as you can see, it says record COBOL Java example, record test COBOL test Java name. And this is what I put into my database. And if I click on Java, I get the exact same thing because they both have the same thing. So if I come up to a Firefox and I go into the SQL Lite and I open up my database, you'll see that I have Java, COBOL, example, test Java, test COBOL, name. And that's what was just put into here, the exact same thing. So